Hello, everybody. Okay, don't mind me while I change the mic. There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the House Medium. I'm Adele Levine, your House Medium. And this is the 80th episode. I'm only 20 away from doing my 100th episode, which I am already looking into doing an in-person episode. And I'm excited about that, where you guys can come and watch me record, hopefully, and maybe watch via, Zoom. Anyway, I'll be working on that. In the meantime, we're not going to go into the Medium Brew Cafe. Oops, I have something. Sorry, Nicole and Angel, but we're going to get into this email. I wanted to let everybody know the person I announced about having a guest on is postponed to the following week. Hopefully, if all goes well. This week didn't work out. And so I guess I'm sorry, but I feel like I have some hair in my face, in my eye. But that's okay. Hopefully, it will all work out when it's there, you'll know. In the meantime, just wanted to do a couple announcements before we dive in, but I do have Victoria on. Victoria. Now, I've been watching The Serpent Queen, and it is about a queen in France, and I love this actress. She's amazing. The show's amazing, and now I'm in this kind of queen-like energy. So Victoria goes by Tori, but I'm going to call her Victoria. She's been on here before. She is back. Her husband's been on here before. But I am going to tell you, it gets rolly and bumpy ride in a good way. Lots of crazy things happen this episode. So I'm excited for you to hear it. When you hear us record this, you'll see what I mean. And just a little hint for those of you who are not signed up for my Patreon, you should be, because the energy climate I predicted for the day I recorded this, which would have been on August 11th, I actually just recorded this, because if you're listening to this on the Tuesday it comes out, and you'll know what happened here, in the moment. You'll see. It was pretty awesome. And it was pretty funny. And we had a lot of crazy bumpy ride on this recording, literally and figuratively. So we're going to just get into the email, but I wanted to make a couple announcements. I wanted to just remind people, like I said, my Patreon, for those of you who are on it, you can always tier up to the Sacred Scholar tier, which you will get video classes that will be posted, once a month. And also you access my daily energy climates and my speed readings that I do every month, which is I do a speed reading for everyone every month to kind of give you a vibe of what's happening that month. And if you tier up for $5 more, you will get the Sacred Scholar. You will get the classes as well that you can watch on your leisure. And the daily energy climates, which I post every day to kind of help you with your day. So, and this coming up, now that we're moving out of summer, I'm going to get back to posting a little tips and tricks. I kind of have something I'm going to experiment with and play with. Sorry, I'm like hitting my hand. And we'll see, like a video that I want to post, extra video, and that would be access if you just join my Patreon in general. Also, my mentorships. I've been going really awesome. I'm really happy that I changed this to hour sessions because I can't get enough done in a half hour. So I'm very excited that I'm doing hour mentorships. They're 2 hour, like a package of 2 hour, and then there's 3 hour. Sorry, I have like stuff in my eye. Three 1 hour sessions. Anyway, let's get to this email. So those are things I have cooking, And look out for the special guest I'll be having. I post all these things on my Instagram, and I'm going to be doing more in-person sessions that I'm excited about. I will be having another guest on, and me and her are going to be talking about an event we're going to be doing together in person, but we're also going to make it available for you to be a part of for Zoom, and it will be in the wizard room. Okay. Literally, we're renting out what's called the wizard room. Let's get started. We have 2 stories from Victoria. So we're going to have 2 different music, like, you know, how I play a little music to tell the story. So we're going to switch from one to the other. So let's get started with the first one. Okay. This gets good. Okay, here we go. I'm excited for you guys to hear this. Hi, Adela. This story is from when I was fresh out of school, very new in my profession. About 10 years ago, I worked with adolescents ages 12 to 17 in an inpatient substance abuse treatment center in Louisiana. I just saw the 12 to 17. That just makes me so sad. Just right away, I felt sad. Right away. Okay. And thank you for doing that work, Victoria. I forgot to say that to you because it's so needed and admirable to work with kids of that age in going through something like this. In Louisiana, I will never forget this encounter with a client who I had was 17. We will call him Jake. He seemed fine when he arrived at the facility that morning. He had ridden in a car with his mother and drug court officer for a few hours. Then he had sat with us and his mother and drug court officer for the hour or 2 it took to check in and do the initial admissions paperwork. Okay. After that, his mother and drug court officer left. He had started to settle in. I brought him into my office to do his assessment with me. I'm told that throughout the ride that day and the time doing paperwork, he had presented as totally calm and normal. As soon as I brought him into my office, sorry, I just need to get some water. She's bringing him to his office. It always happens when I do these. Suddenly, I get choked up. I could sense something was off. He was having difficulty sitting still and kept interrupting me and getting distracted. He kept glancing around the room. I suspected he was having hallucinations, and when I asked him if he was hearing or seeing anything, he suddenly zeroed in on me with his eyes wide and asked,
"Why are you asking me that? Why are you asking me that?"
Yeah. So suddenly he zeroed into me with wide eyes and he asked, Why
are you asking me that?
Why are you asking me that?
Why are you asking me that?
He proceeded to tell me there were demons in the room. Our facility was not a hospital. He obviously needed a higher level of care than what we could provide. He was actively hearing and seeing things and complaining that he felt like something was on fire inside his body. I was very green and new to my profession. I immediately brought him into my boss' office to get help with the situation. My boss and I had difficult time getting information from Jake. He was having difficulty sitting still and focusing. We had a part-time nurse on staff who called in and checked his vitals and assessed him. We decided to call the paramedics and have him checked out at a hospital. He had admitted to smoking mojo earlier that morning before his trip. If you don't know, mojo is a very dangerous drug that often results in psychosis. However, it would be strange for it to wait a whole day to affect him that significantly. However, it is possible he lied and had used mojo or something else on the way there, or managed to get it con- concu- contraband past our staff, which is very common when people are going to facilities like this. They hide it in their bodies. They get very creative in ways to hide, things, and then, use it anyway. We were pretty good at catching things, but no facility or staff is foolproof, and people with addiction issues are very creative and resourceful. The nurse was this really cool guy. I'll call him Vincent. Well, but he was very nice. He was African American gentleman from New Orleans, and he always wore cool hats. Jake told Vincent that he saw demons and believed that somebody put a curse on him.
Somebody put a curse on me, like voodoo or something. Somebody put a curse on me, like voodoo or something.
So he told him that he said, somebody put a curse on me like voodoo or something, the kid said. He needed someone to help lift the curse. I don't know anything more about Vincent's background than what I've already said, but when he heard that, he asked the kid in a very respectful way if he wanted him to pray over him. The kid said yes, and Vincent said a prayer. It was a Christian prayer, and he called in protection. I wish I could remember the specifics. I just remember thinking that it sounded like he had done this before. I was going through an agnostic atheist phase at the time. I was very skeptical, but I can tell you that as Vincent started his prayer, the energy in the room completely changed. It was immediately brighter and calmer, and the kid was able to focus and calmly tell us what he was seeing, feeling, and experiencing. He was able to stop fidgeting when the paramedics came. The kid was able to tell them what was wrong. They took him to the hospital, and he got checked out, and when he went into the psychiatric hospital for about a week after that, he returned to us. Interesting. Like something lifted. That's what it kind of sounds like, right? Something kind of lifted. He was a much calmer and more coherent kid when he returned. He barely remembered anything that had occurred that first day. I know that substances, illness, and injuries can make people see and hear things. I'm more a seasoned clinician now, and I've witnessed many more cases of people in active psychosis and or being high on substances. Something about that particular case felt different. I'm more spiritual person now as I have developed my sight and intuition. I have personally come to believe that people under the influence of addiction can attract negative energies and entities that feed off addiction. I believe that therapy is a form of energy work. And I get into this with her, and I agree with her. That helps people to get healthier and raise their vibrations so they are not as susceptible to these negative energies or entities. I know Jake struggled with addiction and had used a substance that contributed to what he was seeing and experiencing, but I suspect there were other things that were taking advantage of his situation. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Thanks, Tori. And I'm saying AKA Victoria. All right. Interesting, right? I 100% agree with her. I totally get it, what she's saying. And I believe that can absolutely happen where people are, kind of susceptible and have their energy wide open. I've seen it, I've experienced it, and I share a little story with her on that as well. But let's get out of this energy and move more into this energy because she has a second story. We're going to end it in a different way. We're going to end this second story a little bit more silly, and you'll hear what I have to say to her about the first story. All right. Hi, Adela. This is a story my mother told me. My parents moved into the house I grew up in a few years before I was born. I'm told an elderly couple lived in the house before they bought it, but I think the wife had passed away and they only had one adult daughter. The old man was going in a nursing home on the day they signed the papers for the house. The old man passed away tragically. I think the adult daughter was killed in a car accident not long after that. Anyway, the older man who used to own the house, his name was Steve. My mother said that she had a few incidents that happened before I was born. One was when a wooden cutout that was hanging on the wall above the stove suddenly flew across the kitchen. She heard a loud clatter from the other room and came into the kitchen. Interesting to find the wooden cutout on the opposite end of the kitchen. Nothing else in the room was disturbed. She said there was no way that could have flown across the room instead of just falling down. It was as if someone had thrown it. No one else was in the house when it happened. Another incident happened when she was washing dishes in the kitchen. She felt someone pinch her butt. Very pervy of you, Mr. Steve. Perhaps. Or is it? It's pinching her mom's butt. She thought that my dad had come home and turned around to say something, but there was no one in the house. She was the only person home. She said it scared her so bad she went outside on the porch and sat there until my dad got home. Later, one after I was born, she said that once I started talking, I would be laughing and talking to someone that no one else could see. When she asked who I was talking to, I said, "Mr. Steve." I had no way of knowing who Steve was. She said that I pointed toward the air conditioning vent and said, "He's up there. Can't you see his eyes?" That's always fun when a little kid, "Mr. Steve." When a little kid's pointing and going, "Can't you see the eyes in the vent, Mommy? What's the problem?" I remember having the feeling of being watched when I was alone in the house, something I've never felt in the home we moved into later. We felt in the home we moved into later. My brother lives in that house now, and as far as I know, nothing strange has happened there for a while. My mom was telling my husband, Zach, these stories yesterday, and he told me I should write it in. So here it is. Thanks, Tori. Well, Tori, aka Victoria, thank you. We all love that you did. So let's hear what I had to say to Victoria. Hello, everybody. So you heard me read Victoria's email. I told her I'm going to call her Victoria because I've been watching The Serpent Queen and I want to act like a queen from England. France. I mean, she's from France. Anyway, just ignore that. So we have Victoria here. She's been on here before, as so has the husband has been on here before. And we have her back with some more interesting stories. So you can't not be a little witchy. Hold up your witchy like cup. You can't be a witch without having a bunch of paranormal stories.
Yes.
Welcome, Victoria.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yep.
Well, I'm worried that it isn't even catching your voice because talk.
No.
Could you see how it's not moving?
Oh no.
Is it? Oh, wait.
It
Yeah,
is.
like it's moving.
I don't know how much it's supposed to move, but
Okay,
it's
there we
moving.
go. It's catching
Okay.
her voice. Okay, hopefully we don't record a whole podcast and it's not heard because I'm gonna be really angry, an angry Fre- French English queen. Okay, so let's go over your email. I'm gonna start with the one I know everyone wants to hear, the more of the exorcism one. First of all, out of all the things that I get weirded out about, which is pretty much nothing, this is one of the subject matters I do. And it's because when I was a kid and I would see things at night and I would constantly get visitations and I was raised very Christian, I pretty much was convinced this is what was happening to me every night. Like something was trying to, come in my body or whatever. And
Right.
I thought, because, in the Christian faith, if you're dealing with anything like that, that's what's happening. So I still always get creeped out about movies about this, even though I know most of the time I'm also laughing because they're very silly. But this is a subject matter I think is going to be really interesting because of so many things. Just to give everybody a reminder of Victoria's background, you are a therapist, right? And your specialty is in.
I Most of my work experience is in substance abuse, but I can, do any mental health stuff. So,
Right.
yeah.
But you have a lot of, and I want to get into that because some things you mentioned in this email, I completely agree with you about. So I want to
Yeah.
get into that. Okay. So the story happened about 10 years ago. You're fresh, you know, fresh into the field, right? You're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. So you're
I
like, great. Yeah. I love that part when you were like, I was just pretty green and you were in a
Yeah.
substance abuse treatment in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Okay. And you'll never forget a client, and he was only 17. He was so young.
Yeah, it was a adolescent facility, and I was thrown to the wolves. My very first big professional job, I was working with adolescents in an inpatient substance abuse treatment center, ages 12 to 17. And people tend to think that teenagers can't be quote unquote real addicts, but I can tell you half of my caseload at any given time were IV, meth, and heroin users. And they had been through just as much trauma that any seasoned adult addict could claim. So it
Okay.
was gritty. Yeah.
I'm a little concerned, Victoria, because as you're talking, there's no movement on here. So
I see
can you say some
movement.
stuff?
Hello. I see the little thing moving.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to have faith in this. Okay. Sorry everyone. Ignore that or we'll edit it or we'll leave it in because something weird has to always happen with me and Victoria because I feel like it always happens with us.
Always. Always.
Always.
Oh, it's
So we'll
moving
just
bigger
leave it
now.
in. Yeah, it's
It's
growing.
it's
Okay.
growing.
Okay. So yeah, I totally understand that. Okay. So he had ridden a car with his mother and he was going to drug court and everything. So why don't you take us through the assessment phase part of the story?
So when they would come in, they would be, take an hour or two getting checked in, going through the intake paperwork with the, excuse me, with the intake coordinator. And then after everything else was done, then it would be time for me to meet with them and do their biopsychosocial assessment, which is where, it's just a big interview with all the background, all the questions.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I brought him in to do that, the behavior he was exhibiting was really strange.
Whoa, hold on. There's an earthquake.
Oh, God.
There's an earthquake. I gotta go.
Okay. Okay.
Wait, wait.
Okay.
It's an earthquake, right? Citric
Earthquake.
earthquake. Yeah, I'm sorry. I gotta go. I'm sorry
Yeah.
about that.
No,
Okay.
no.
What weird. Okay, bye.
All right.
Okay, we are back, everyone. So, what the fuck? We just had an earthquake here in California, and then Victoria comes on, decides to blast my ears and gives me a
Fix the
soundquake, and I'm like,
mic.
"What is happening today? Is the universe just like, let's make a day's life feel overwhelming and crazy?" First of all, it was really trippy because she was able to, like, actually witness in real time. My It was like the shortest earthquake. It was just like boom, and then it just shook. Now the weird thing is that the epicenter is probably about maybe 40 minutes from here, and, like, so you always look and see where the epic when there's an earthquake, the epicenter means, like, where is the actual, like, where is it, actually taking place, and then it trickles from there. It just trickles down. And what people don't know is in earthquakes is that when it trickles down, that means the shaking slowly makes its way down, and then even the I've seen the floor go rolling under my feet, the ground, not the floor, the
Mhm.
ground. So it kind of finds its way. And so that's the thing that was trippy. I was telling her I'm changing my lighting because I don't remember if he turned my light on, or I got freaked out. Because I was like, I don't know if there'll be another one hit, because when there's an earthquake like that short, sometimes another one comes right after. So she's like, I'm like, I gotta go. And I just like hang up, and then I find out, thank God it's not here, because that's kind of, I hate to say it, but that's what you hope for, because it's worse wherever it was. But
Mhm.
it's actually wasn't, it was a 4.7, and it's not huge. That's kind of a typical. But the weird thing about earthquakes, unlike hurricanes and tornadoes, we don't have a warning.
Right.
So you're just prepared all the time. It's like, in other words, the way you live here is like, well, I'm going to do this or that, because what if there's an earthquake? So you have
Mhm.
things on your walls that could hurt you. You have like putty down. I have like little globes, and I put them on the ground because I don't want them like flying, off shelves. So, yeah. And then she comes on and blasts my ears. And I was like, I'm already traumatized. And she's like, "Hello, can you hear me?" And I was like, "What's happening? I'm done. I'm done. I'm going under the covers."
It's been a day.
Like when I did the energy climate today, I said it was like aggressive, and that everyone thing was gonna be aggressive. Well, it sure was fucking aggressive today.
Yeah.
Like, damn, universe, give us some room to breathe. Okay. That was funny and terrifying. She was cracking up at my face. And you know what? When I came to have you come back on, your face was frozen, and people can't see me who are listening, but her eyes were open, and her whole face was scrunched up. Like, what? It was like
Yeah.
perfect.
It's always going to be a crazy face when that happens,
Yeah.
right?
And you were like, "What?" And then on top of
Yeah.
it, you were still talking, I think. So, like, it was weird because I already stopped it, but I could still hear you talking, going, "Yeah, and she said everything was shaking." And I was like, "What is that?" It's like a visiting the past. I don't know, it was kind of crazy. What'd you bring today, Victoria?
Don't know. It's a weird day.
It's gonna make a good show, though. Oh gosh. Whew. Mama needs a adult drink. Okay. So, so what I wanted, let's get back to, so you were talking about like the assessment. So what we left off is you said he was acting weird. Can you describe what was different? Because obviously when people are on substances, they act weird. We all know that. And that's what I kind of want to really go over with everyone to make sure we're clear. What do you mean by weird? You know?
He was the thing is through and he was in a car ride for several hours before arriving,
Hmm.
and then he did the intake process, and I was told through all of that he was normal. But when I got him, he was very excessively fidgety. Like he could not sit still, he could not focus. And the thing that I picked up on was he kept looking and glancing around the room and focusing in different areas.
Okay.
And when I was trying to speak to him, it was like he couldn't pay attention or hear me. And that's a classic sign of the person is seeing and hearing other things, that
Okay.
are distracting them.
Okay. All right. So, and you said he was having trouble sitting still.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said to him, "Are you seeing or hearing anything?" You said his eyes were wide. Like, why did you ask that? Why do you think that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
freaked out.
It is a question on the assessment. Are you seeing or hearing anything, that I'm not, or something to that effect? And
Right.
um, but when I said, "Are you seeing or hearing something?" and he just zeroed in on me and was like, "Why did you ask me that?" Like, "Oh, because it's part of the questions, but tell me what's going on." And then he told me he was seeing demons.
Okay. So my question to you is because it's substance abuse. Um, you're not. Did you? Because let's get into like you knew he was on something, right?
And I mean, it's a big possibility. Yeah.
Okay.
I knew
Because
he
you.
had a history of it. Yeah, I didn't,
Right.
sometimes they are or aren't under the influence when they come in, but
Right.
for the several hours before that, his behavior had been normal for what his parents and everybody else had reported to me.
Oh, you're saying before, but it could be just so that anyone's listening is thinking this. It could be that like the drugs kicked in, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and now like having. But you're saying like you're not sure 100%. Like he didn't say,
yeah.
"Listen, I'm."
Because I was asking the intake coordinator, well, why wasn't this noticed? Because we should have had the nurse or somebody check him out. And she was like, no, he sat there and was normal. Like
Really
it
interesting.
seemed like a sudden change, which could be it just took a while for the stuff to kick in, or maybe, I mean, we were pretty good about searching and catching things, but people are very creative, and it's possible he could have smuggled something and used it. I don't know,
Yeah, that's true too.
you know um
What did you feel like his behavior was acting like? Do you feel like he was actually seeing things, hearing
yeah,
things? Yeah. And did he talk he didn't say what he was seeing or hearing?
he was reluctant to, until I brought him into my supervisor's office, and my supervisor had a little more experience with this than I had at that time. And he was able to kind of tell us, yeah, I'm seeing demons. And he would describe shadows and things in the corner and out the corner of his eye, which is typical for what we expect with psychosis, which
Yeah.
is visual audio hallucinations.
Right, right. That's what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
he could be on something. Okay.
Yeah, and it
So
was also, he was hearing things calling his name, which is also common with audio hallucinations.
it is. And
Yeah.
that's what I want people to be clear is like there's a very big difference because when he hears it audio, that when you say audio, so he
Hmm.
literally means outside of his body.
Hmm.
It's not telepathic or
No, it's
in
a
your
sound
mind's
that
eye.
he's picking up.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's the biggest difference. Okay. So you had and you said that your boss and you were had a hard time getting information from him.
Yeah, he was just having such a hard time to focus and sit still and to communicate because he was so distracted by what he was seeing and hearing. And also, it was freaking him out. His anxiety was up, I
Right.
mean, it makes
Right.
sense.
And you said you had a part-time nurse on staff
Hmm.
who called to check his vitals. Okay, so can you tell us that part of the story?
We had a nurse on staff who happened to be there or came in, and we called the nurse in to check on him. And another thing he told me was that he was feeling something burning inside of him, like in his stomach. So he was describing some physical sensations. And of course, we're like, let's get the nurse to check him out. And they checked vitals and everything. And Yeah, we're just making sure he was, not having some kind of medical emergency, blood pressure or whatever. Of course, we were already calling paramedics at this point. He needed a higher level of care than what we were.
Okay. I see. Okay. All right. Okay. So, the nurse was there. It was a really cool guy named Vincent. So, can you describe what happened, that whole incident with him and Vincent?
So, I'm calling him Vincent.
Yes, I know. We're calling him Vincent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I didn't know Vincent very well. But he was this really cool dude from New Orleans. He always dressed snazzy, always had a cool hat.
Yeah.
And he was always
Cool
nice.
Vincent. Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, he was talking to the kid, and he was able to get the kid's attention and talk to him. And the kid told him, I'm seeing demons. I think, and these things have been following me around for a long time. And I think that somebody put a curse on me, like voodoo or something. um, Now, I don't know the whole history with the kid. I can say him and Vincent both were from some areas of South Louisiana where you can run into
Normal.
things like that,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
So anyway, but Vincent said something to the effect of, "Well, nobody can put something on you that you're not allowing. So let me. And the kid asked him, "Can you pray with me?" And he said,
Mm.
"Yeah, if you want me to," which is, we don't, and we were a state run, we weren't faith based.
Right, right.
And the way he went about it was very ethical and respectful. And the kid led the conversation there and asked him, "Can you pray with me?" And he said, "Yeah." And when he started praying, I wish I could remember the specifics, but it sounded like he had done this before. Okay, I could
Mhm.
just say he was calling in protection. He was, I mean, it sounded like he knew what he was doing. And I was kind of in my agnostic atheist phase at the time, so I was very skeptical, but I can tell you the entire energy of that room changed. It
Mm.
actually became physically brighter
Mm.
and just lighter. And then after that prayer, like the kid was so much calmer, and he was able to really
Interesting.
articulate more clearly what he was experiencing. And when the paramedics came, he was calm enough to really like just cooperate with them. And then they took him to the hospital to get checked out. But it completely changed his demeanor. It completely changed the energy in the room. And even though I was kind of in my skeptical phase at the time, it it spooked me.
Really?
It felt like something I couldn't
Left.
explain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It felt like
Right.
something left.
Well, I believe that when people, like he said, when
Mhm.
people believe in something, that's what makes it work. I think that's what
Mhm.
people don't understand is like, even when I say to people, like, if you want to bring protection or you want to cleanse something, you have to work with what you believe in. If it's
Yeah.
not something you believe in, it will not work.
Yeah.
So that's very, very interesting. Okay. So you said that you checked on the kid later, or you knew that the kid did better when you left or something?
He went to the hospital, checked out, and they sent him to a psych hospital where he kind of detoxed and got on some meds. And when he came back about a week later, he was like a totally different kid. He was like normal. Um, and
But that
apparently,
that could be with the detoxing and
right,
stuff
right,
too.
and
Right.
the substance he was using does make people hallucinate. So, but it's
Okay.
just I've seen a
What
lot
was
of
the
that too.
substance again?
Mojo.
I've never heard of that. What is that?
So it's a it used to be kind of a synthetic marijuana is how it was marketed, but they changed the formula so many times now it doesn't resemble anything like marijuana. But
Okay.
it's very dangerous. It's essentially poison. I mean, it's just they used to sell it legal in the gas stations until they were able to change
Did
the
hear
laws.
of this. Yeah.
K2 spice is another name for it. And the thing about Mojo is it's very difficult and expensive to catch on a drug screen. So a
Mm,
lot of people who were court ordered and being drug tested would use it.
okay.
Yeah. So It's
Okay.
yeah.
That makes sense. Interesting. Okay, I'll get into what I feel about that. Okay, so now let's move to to a different
Yeah.
story. And this story has to do with your mom and the butt pinching ghost. Okay. So we just like to start with the heavy stuff and end with the light stuff.
Right, right.
This is my plan. So those of their people are like eyes are freaking out. They're like, Jesus, Adela. First it was an earthquake, then people are screaming at you,
Right.
and now we're like, possessions possibly. So
Yeah.
we're gonna end with butt pitching, kind of haunted mansion type of,
Mhm.
spirits. Okay. So your parents moved into a house and you grew up a few years ago. You told an elderly couple lived in the house. Um and but I think the wife passed away. Okay, so did the man pass away too, or just the wife and the daughter?
The wife had passed,
Mhm.
or yeah, I think she had passed, and then the man had went into a nursing home, and the daughter I think was in charge of selling the house and everything.
Okay.
And on the day my parents signed the papers to close on the house, the man passed away. Yeah,
Wow.
on the day that they signed the papers, the man passed away.
Damn. Okay.
And then I'm told like a year or two later, the daughter was unfortunately killed in a car wreck. Uh, so it's
Wow.
just very tragic. Um,
Yes, that's
but
terrible.
but yeah,
Yeah,
so yeah, that was the thing. They passed away the day I mean, the old man passed away the day they signed the papers.
that's interesting. That is definitely interesting. Okay. So, so your mother's oh, sorry. So your mother said there was a few incidents that happened. One, and I know you have some others, so we'll get to that too, but let's go over these first. One was when a decorative wooden cutout flew across the room. Can you take us through that incident?
It was a wooden cutout, and it was hanging behind the stove.
Mhm.
And she said she was in a different room in the house, and nobody else was home at this time, or nobody else was in the kitchen at least. So I think she was the only one home. And I'm so sorry. I have dogs,
That's
and they're
okay.
barking in the background. I don't know if the mic's picking it up.
That's okay. I can hear 'em, but I think
Okay.
people like dogs, so I think we'll be
Yeah,
okay.
it's fine. But anyway, so it was a wooden cutout hanging above the stove, and but she heard this loud clatter, and she came in to see what happened, and she saw it kind of on the opposite end of the room. And like if it had just fallen, it should have fell like behind the stove or on it. Like
Right,
there was
not
just
flying
it didn't
across.
make sense. Yeah, it didn't
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
checks a box. Okay. All right. So, so that happened, and then she said there was no way that could have flown. Okay,
Yeah.
and what was the cutout of? Do you know what it was?
A watermelon.
A watermelon.
Yeah.
Okay. Another incident happened when she was washing dishes in the kitchen. She felt someone pinch her butt. What the hell, pervy spirits? The old man's like, hello.
I guess so. Yeah, she
He's like,
yeah.
hello, washing dishes? And she's like, you're not my man. Okay. So
Yeah,
what
because she thought, and she was the only one home. This was before I was born. She had a young son, but he was in school, and she
Okay.
was the only one home. She's standing there washing dishes and just focused on her task. And then, yeah, she said she felt plain as day somebody pinched her butt. And she assumed that my dad had come home early and was just like messing with her.
Being
So
silly,
she
yeah.
turned around. She was like, I was going to turn around and just kind of, give him a playful slap or whatever and call him
Right.
a name, And like she turned around and there was nobody in the house, nobody on the premises. And she said it scared her so bad. She went outside and sat on the porch until he came home. Like for a few hours. She was like done.
Yeah. She was wishing it was him then. She
It
was like,
scared her.
wow, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. Okay. So later, okay, so later one after you were born, she said there that once I started talking, you'd be laughing and talking to someone. So
Mm-hmm.
can you describe that?
Yeah, she said I was about 2 or 3, and she would hear me, kind of like I was having a conversation with somebody or laughing at somebody because I would
Hmm.
be looking in a direction, like I was looking at something
Right.
or looking at the ceiling. And she asked me, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "Oh, Mr. Steve. Can't you see him?" And I pointed to like the direction of the air vent. And I'm like, "Can't you see his eyes?" And
His
she said it.
eyes
Yeah,
in the air vent?
yeah. She said it
Oh,
freaked
fuck.
her out.
She's like, okay, this little kid,
Yeah.
like, Victoria just wants to bring havoc wherever she goes, and she's a
Yes.
baby. She's like, don't you see his eyes?
Yeah.
They're popping right out through the vent. And your mom's like, that's it. That's
She's
it.
like, no.
I am not looking. I am not looking at the vent. It's the worst when a kid's like, look it, mom. Yeah, I know. Wow, this guy is not being nice. I am not sure about him. I'm going to check into him. All right. So you said you remember feeling like you were being watched, and
Yeah.
your brother, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And she said, she always had that uneasy feeling. And I remember growing up feeling that way and not, just thinking that's what you felt like when you were by yourself or whatever. Like it was, and,
You're like, this is fun. You just
yeah.
feel like being watched all the time.
I also have a very
I know,
active. You
like,
okay?
what is happening on this podcast today?
Is there another earthquake?
I knocked my light down, but it's okay. We
Okay,
can keep
okay.
going. Yeah.
The earthquake didn't do it.
Is it that guy?
I don't
Where
know. I don't know.
I'm gonna
But
get because it's never knocked down. I mean, I know he might have banged it.
you're welcome.
Oh, it's like on the floor. I'm gonna have to text my husband to come get it for me. This is the best. This is the best podcast.
Yeah,
Alive.
yeah.
This is really, I'm sure if you're driving right now, you're probably dying laughing. Okay, go on, continue.
So,
I'm just asking for help. I have to make sure I'm not saying it doesn't sound scary. I'm
right,
texting. Go
right.
ahead.
So, I forgot what I was saying.
Oh, no, you were saying that you always felt like something.
Oh, that's right. An interesting note on that. Well, I have an active imagination, so I always just kind of threw it on that.
Is it active or is it maybe you actually just, I know you're sighted and you have gifts. So,
I
because
believe it's
everyone does,
both.
yeah, because what we didn't tell people is you on the side, you're, from doing
Yeah,
your therapy, you're a reader as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I do tarot, and
Yeah. Can you help me? It's okay. Everybody knows I've recorded that I knocked it down or somebody knocked it. We don't know. This has been a roller coaster ride.
it's okay. I had to call in reinforcement earlier.
Yeah. And then it was like too much. It was too much reinforcement. Bring it down a notch. Okay.
hmm
So so then you said you had some other stories, right?
Well, first of all, she mentioned earlier, that so she still owns that house. My brother lives in it now.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
we moved into the house we're in now because my husband and I are living with her now in the interest of saving money and traveling. So anyway,
Right.
we're so
But
the
not in
house.
that house.
No, no, my brother's in that house, but
Your brother's in that house.
yeah.
Okay.
So when she bought the house we're in now, she bought it with the intention of making it like a rent house.
Mhm.
And she fixed it up and everything, but as she came out here and worked on it, she noticed she felt more at ease here. And then it took a while for her to realize when I'm there, I don't feel like I'm being watched. So anyway, we ended up moving into this house. And yeah, whenever we moved here, it was a totally different vibe. That weird feeling of something's watching me, just we didn't
Oh,
have it
and
here.
does your brother feel like he's being watched?
So at first, but it's been a long time as far as I know since there have been any weird feelings or incidents over there, at least that they've told us about. So I
Okay.
think the activity eventually stopped.
Okay.
But yeah, it was and we moved here when I was in I think I had it yeah, I had just graduated high school. I was probably about 19, 20ish, so it's been a little while.
I have a weird question. Were there any, this is going to sound strange before I get into it, but were there any pictures of clowns in that house?
Not that I can think of.
Not that you remember, right? Okay. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay. We're going to move on. Let's start with
Um.
what?
Oh,
What are
sorry.
you going to
I
say?
had another story that she told me that I
Oh,
forgot to
she did.
mention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go for it. Mm-hmm.
So, apparently, when I was small, like really little, she one night she and my dad were asleep, and they heard footsteps coming up to the bed, and my mom, from her perspective, she heard it, and she thought it was me. And before she could say or do anything, my dad had heard it and it woke him up, and he said, "Hey, baby, what do you need?" Talking to me,
Yeah.
and there was no response. And then she sat up and turned the light on. There was nobody in there. And they got up
Mm,
and checked on me. I was dead asleep. My brother was dead asleep. Nothing. And that
interesting.
freaked her out. She made him keep the light on, made him check every inch of the house, it's the whole
Yeah.
thing. But yeah,
Because the first
but
you want to make sure it's not like
yeah,
living people who are
yeah, but
scarier.
they both heard the footsteps.
Okay.
Yeah, very clear. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. We got it. So I'm going to start with the first story. Okay. We're going to do two songs because we got two different moods going on here. All right. It's the first mood. All right. So here's my feeling I wanted to talk about. I 100% believe that the kid was on something and he was
Yeah.
hallucinating. However, with that said, I also believe both were kind of happening.
Yeah.
So in other words, like you put this in the email and I 100% believe in
Mhm.
this too. When you have substance and then there's like an addiction, it creates like like and you said it too, a tear. I call it like a tear in the
Yeah.
soul. And it just kind of it's kind of imagine like just as for I know you know this, but this is for everyone listening at home. Kind of imagine if you have like a Wi-Fi or you have a connection and you kind of have something like distorting the connection and it's not making it as safe, so you have interference that's allowing like other people to kind of come into that connection. That's how I always see people who, because the reason why I know this is because I've experienced this just even walking down the street if
Mhm.
someone is completely high and
Mhm.
I can see things taking advantage of those people,
Yeah.
like talking through them. Like I even get like sick to my stomach when I talk about it because I know this is like a real thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what was happening to him. And I feel like when the guy said, let's do a prayer, he was saying, I'm going to clear and make
Mhm.
you feel safe. It wasn't like a curse on him. It wasn't like anything did anything
Yeah.
to him. But this guy believed in it, so much, like, because he was, obviously a little bit religious
Yeah.
person or had faith. So his faith, he brought the light to this
Yeah.
kid. So I feel like the kid was being like taken advantage of being in
Yeah.
that state. And I do believe that's what happened. So it's not necessarily like something was in him,
Mhm.
but definitely it feels like something was trying to kind of guide him down the wrong path.
Yeah.
What people don't seem to understand is that that realm is with us all the time. So there are energies that are always trying to corrupt and hurt
Mhm.
and create havoc, that are unhappy and just don't want to help people. And then there's also energies trying to help. And so, like, here's this guy, the perfect guy to be around him at the
Right.
perfect time to help him, bring the light. So I feel like I bet this kid is always going to remember that guy and probably think he was like a guardian angel of sorts to him and helped him through. But I do feel like it was both. I feel like
Mhm.
he was hiding, being on something, and it hit him.
Yeah.
And then the darkness of all of that started to kind of creep around him. And I feel like the guy brought the light to him and cleared it. So I think that one is really interesting. So totally to your point, because you've I'm sure I've seen that too,
Mhm.
right, with
Yeah.
people. Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I think when there's a wound like that to the soul, the psyche, there's
Hmm.
risk of things taking advantage of that. I think of it
Yes.
kind of like when you're compromised with a physical wound, you're at risk of infection.
Oh,
Germs get
that's a
in,
good
so it's
way to
kind of
put
the same
it.
thing. Yeah, it just makes you more
Yeah.
vulnerable.
100%.
Yeah.
I have seen it. Like, I've had people like on the street start like yelling at me, and I
Mm.
remember this one time, this one story I'll tell real quick that reminds me of I this is how, like, what's weird with with how things work with the universe. It was kind of new on my path, and I was walking and I was like, I'm going to take myself to this cool little like kind of crystal-y shop. And I walk in, and the lady was so friendly, and which I'm making a point because this is LA,
Hmm.
so it's not always the case. And she was so friendly, and she was just really talkative, and I was like, "Oh, I feel really good." I literally walk out of the shop, turn to my left, and there's this guy with his hair all stringy and his teeth almost looking crazy,
Hmm.
and he was dressed in like almost like he went out for a clubbing and never went home because he was
Hmm.
dressed in like like bell bottoms, like cool clothes actually, and he just starts screaming at
Mm.
me. Like
Yeah.
literally like something took over.
Yeah.
And it saw this light in me because I was coming out with
Yeah.
all this light. Because sometimes it does happen where they respond negatively to it.
Yeah.
That's why the kid agreed to it.
Hmm.
He's like, can you
Yeah.
help me?
Yeah.
Can you get this out of me? And this is a key that people need to understand. If you have somebody who has, an addiction, and you feel like you've seen this in them, it will not work on them if they don't want it to work
Hmm.
on them. So I literally felt like, in this situation, this is why the light came in and helped this kid
Yeah.
clear it. But this guy almost hated me for the light because the thing
Yeah.
that was in him. Then here's the weirdest part. That's one thing. First of all, it was kind of like today. I was like, what did I do? Like, why is there? I'm
Right.
like, I just literally like, what a nice day. Woo, hoo, 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 whistling along.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
ah. And
Just
it
minding
was
your own
it was
business.
like freaked me out. It freaked the guy. There was a guy behind me out.
Hmm.
Was he chivalrous and like, hey, no, he backed away, crossed the
Out
street.
there.
So
Wow.
I crossed the street, right? And I let this guy go way down like a block. Now,
Hmm.
just for people to get a picture of a block in LA, they're long. Like if walking a block in LA would take you maybe 15 minutes because they're very long blocks. That's why people don't walk here because it's
Hmm.
just not like it's just not fun in areas like this. So I wait, cross back the street, and he's literally that far down, and he turns around
Mm-mm.
like he sensed me.
No.
Like, cause I didn't like walk along parallel. Crossed the
Yeah.
street and waited for him to go way far
Yeah.
down. Like he sensed, like it was like a slow. If you're watching this, you'll see it. But if you're hearing, I'm like slowly turned and like looks at me with those eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't see his eyes, but I could feel it, and he just starts screaming at me again, like
Mm.
a banshee, like just like a complete animal.
Yeah.
And he was like, ah, and I was like, oh, fuck no. And I
Nope.
crossed the street again, and I waited and waited and waited till he was out of sight. And I was like, that guy is clearly high,
Yeah.
but he's clearly being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And that's what comes to my mind with this kid. But I think what was cool about this kid is that he sensed it and he didn't want it. And
Hmm.
he wanted to get clean. For one,
Hmm.
he's trying to get clean, and for two, he's trying to get clean, his
Right.
spirit. But yeah, so I kind of feel like that's what was going on.
Yeah.
That's my sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was definitely something like that. But he was at that moment. He didn't want it. He was like,
But
get this
that's
thing out of me, or
yeah, but
whatever,
that's
so to
yeah,
speak. Yeah.
you have to want it, and you also have to want to help
Yeah.
deal with the cause, because I have seen
Mm-hmm.
people who don't want to deal with the cause and it will not work.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, he's like, well, I don't care, I just want to be high, just get it off
Yep.
of me. You're like,
Yep.
that's not going to work. Yeah. Okay. So, everybody, did we send you on a roller coaster ride? We hope so. But we're going to get to the fun, like, the lighter spirits. Okay. Okay.
The
I
butt
mean, it was
pinchers.
the butt pictures, throwing signs
Yeah.
across. Yeah,
Yeah.
people are like lighter, Adela, and I'm like, yes, it is a little lighter. Okay, here's my sense. My sense is that this one is definitely the older man. He liked your family.
Mm-hmm.
My feeling is that he liked you a lot. I do feel like it had to do with you guys were similar to his setup,
Mm-hmm.
the family setup. I definitely don't feel like he meant any ill will at all. The throwing of the sign, immediately what I heard, but it's funny because I kept seeing a clown behind you. So I feel like he was kind of like this. It would be interesting to know if we get any background of him, but I kind of feel like he was like a jokester. That's who he was.
Yeah.
Because I saw like a clown, like almost like someone who might have even did things like that in his life or
Yeah.
something. Maybe it was, I don't mean it has to be professional, but it could have been like even just something he did for fun. He was that guy. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
he was that guy. And I feel like he absolutely just thought you guys were like great and he liked it. It's like he wanted to be included.
Mm-hmm.
And since you can see things, you saw him. But I do feel like he was not so much watching, but kind of more like trying to participate.
Yeah.
Like, I'm part of it. I also feel like there's this other vision I get with him, has something to do with like either a milkman or a mailman, because I just saw him like in a truck driving.
Yeah.
Reminded me of like a mail truck or
I don't
something.
know what he did.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
It may come up. The reason why I'm going to tell
Yeah.
you, I know you, and you're really brainy. Don't be literal. I'm just telling you. You're like, I don't know. You don't have to
Yeah.
tell me now, but you don't know. You could find some stuff
Yeah.
out later. So if you do, you can be like, oh, Adela, this came up.
Mm-hmm.
This is crazy, right? That's why I always say everything. 'Cause,
Yeah.
my other sense is that at the time, I feel like he was trying to cheer your mom up
Mm-hmm.
because there was something maybe she was dealing with or something she was stressed on. And I literally feel like he took a liking to your mom in I want to say in a little sentimental way,
Mm-hmm.
because of something that happened with his wife or the things that happened, what he lost with his wife. So I don't feel like this was a negative at all. This was just a, hey, I want to be a part of the group type of thing.
Yeah.
The reason why it doesn't happen to your brother is because of you guys not being there.
Okay.
He was more focused on your mom
Yeah.
than you. And you were kind of more or less like, because you could see things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it, seemed more, a lot was more
Yeah.
happening with you.
And
Yeah.
I mean, being a little kid, you don't know to try to block that stuff out, or you don't think it's unusual, like you've
Yeah,
said before, until
right.
people start getting freaked out, like, kind of conditioning you that we don't do that, or that's not
Yeah,
normal.
exactly.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then you kind of learn to turn it off or dismiss it,
Mhm.
But when you're 2 or 3, you're just like, yeah, I see a dude and whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's right
You're
there,
like,
kids. You see it. What are you talking about? Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah. Totally,
yeah,
totally makes sense. Well, thanks for sharing these stories with me. This was a lot of fun. Um, the whole thing was a wild ride, and
yeah,
we hope you guys all enjoyed it. And I really appreciate you sending them in. Victoria sent them in because she heard my call, which, let me remind everybody, send in your emails at thehousemedium@gmail.com, because you never know. Look, you never know what's going to happen. You might go on a roller coaster ride with me. Hopefully not I do not want that.
No.
But still, still, it's always like an interesting ride. Thank you so much for coming on,
No
Victoria.
problem.
All right, bye bye. Well, as I described to Victoria, I absolutely, and you heard my story, and I have a few other stories of what I have seen and witnessed to the first story. Let's talk about the first story she wrote into, which was about the person under, who was having substance abuse problems. I absolutely have had, the first story I talked about, with with her first story where she talks about like the person seeing demons. I absolutely believe that these types of things, people think that drinking or doing things causes, it doesn't. What happens is if you're really getting so far into an addiction and you start losing track of your own self, because pain and suffering attracts those who want to feed off of your pain and suffering. I'm saying that to be clear. I'm just also clearing up my lipstick because I've seen people post things like, oh, drinking or doing weed or anything. Oh, this is going to cause track demons or whatever. It's not true. It's mostly when people are so far gone, they kind of lose themselves and they lose their mind, their mental capacity, being able to not, they've gotten so far into an addiction, those energies kind of feed off of it and take advantage. And I have seen that. And those energies don't want those people to get clean. They don't want to release them of that. So that's kind of what I feel happened. I feel like it was a combination. I really feel like he had snuck something in and did something. And, and also like him starting to see things and get afraid, because it is kind of like the shadows of those energies are waiting to kind of mess with him. So I really think that our Vincent nurse was so amazing to kind of help him through that and to give him the lift, because I do believe whatever you believe in spiritually, whatever moves your spirit will work. I totally 100% believe in that, because it won't work if you don't have a belief into it. You know what I mean? So the fact that this kid was like, yes, please do this for me, please help me in this kind of way, then he is open to it. He's able to receive the energy he needed. So thank you, Victoria. That was a really, really kind of intense, but I'm sure obviously it sat with you for all this time. The second story of our butt pitching spirit was this man I just kind of kept seeing, and what she told me, by the way, she told me off air that he was kind of known for being really fun and playful, and because I saw this clown type of thing, and she said that he did like to, do Halloween and things like this. So I feel like he just wanted to like be a part of the family and have fun and kind of say, hey, I'm here. I didn't totally die. I'm still around. Um, hey, everybody, play with me, hang out with me, be my friend. And her mom was like, hell no. I was kidding. she was. She was like, I don't think so. And stop pitching my butt. Rude, pervy. But I feel like he was just trying to be playful and kind of saw. And I forgot that Victoria, I forgot that you actually knew his name. Another thing is Victoria has her own abilities. She sees things. She's taken my classes. She's come to lots of things. Her husband has done mentorship with me. They both are like, dual readers. So it makes sense. She had these little gifts as a kid. And little Steve there was like, hey, what's going on? I mean, come on, Steve. But I do feel like it'll be interesting if she has any updates for us. Thank you all so much. This was a good one, right? I really, really like the fact that we had, both these stories, and we had a little butt butt pitching, butt pitching spirit messing with people. It is very interesting, and also that you're doing such great work with people with young people who are going through such trouble, that you did this work. It's amazing to me. I just really wanted to acknowledge that. Don't forget, I do offer all of the things I spoke about at the top. You can look at the things I'm always doing on my Instagram, on my TikTok, on my YouTube. I do post as much as I can, and very much my Patreon. Please leave me a review. I am going to post the latest review. Oh, that reminds me. I have a latest review. Let me read it. How did I mess up so bad? Here's my latest review that I just received. Here we go. I have to find my own show and get the review. That's the thing. But I wanted to say thank you, Kimmy. I know Kimmy Stubbs. I look forward to this podcast every week. I've been following Adela for years and have experienced both medium and intuitive readings from her. She's spot on, professional, and kind and helpful. Thank you so much, Kim. I so appreciate it. You rock. Thank you. Please leave a review or just even throw up a star or two on Apple Review. I so appreciate it. Thank you all so much for supporting this podcast. I can't wait to plan a big blowout 100th episode. I think it will be fun. Thank you all so much again. Follow yourself and remember the spirit world. I just want to remind everyone, they're people. They're just people who died. You know, they go through things. They try to learn. And if you give them a chance, then you might have an interesting time. I mean, look at my life. Follow yourself. Follow no one. Listen to your inner voice. And I'll see you soon.